Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this video is my long-awaited, highly requested Hermes Paris FSH leather appointment story time. And I'll say, other than an entire handbag collection video or an Hermes collection video, this is the only video that I get weekly requests for. I did film it last year, my computer crashed, I hadn't backed it up, so I lost the entire thing. This is my attempt to redo it, so let's go all the way back to the summer of 2023 when I went to Paris. I know I've mentioned several times that this was not a shopping trip. My daughter picked a location, so we were there for sightseeing. We went to Disney, we went to London, and here and there we did some shopping. I did a haul video where you'll see I really didn't buy that much in France, but I told you I wanted to talk about Hermes bags and what I was offered during my leather appointment in a separate video, because my entire experience, how I got the appointment, what I saw while I was there was wild. I'll start with how I got the appointment in the first place because it's rather shocking. I neither applied for a lottery appointment nor did I even request a cancellation appointment. So you're probably wondering, who gets a leather appointment at FSH without asking? So here's what happened. That day I hadn't even planned to go to Hermes. It was my third day in Paris. It was a bit of an ordeal getting there. Our flights got canceled. We got there a whole day later. Our first 2 days were spent sightseeing and eating and walking around. Now, because of the hoopla in getting to Paris in the first place, and when we got there, we were off and running with our sightseeing, I really didn't even think about Hermes, so I completely forgot to apply for the online lottery appointment. Now, the third day we were there, we went on an early morning sightseeing boat ride on the Seine. It was beautiful. After our boat cruise, we took pictures by the Eiffel Tower. This particular week was very rainy. Thankfully, it didn't really rain while we were on our cruise or while we were taking pictures by the Eiffel Tower, but once it started to rain, we went to a restaurant and had brunch at a lovely little cafe near the Eiffel Tower. Our clothes got a little wet, but thankfully we weren't soaked. After our brunch, we went to the Louvre. So we packed in a ton of stuff that morning, and after all of that, everyone wanted to go back to the hotel, get some rest, because we had reservations for dinner at a really nice restaurant at 6:30 that night. However, I was looking at my little map and noticed that Rue Cambon was about a little over 1 kilometer away, which is a little over a half a mile. For a New Yorker, that's the equivalent of walking a little farther to go to the nice bodega that makes the good chopped cheese. No one wanted to walk to Rue Cambon with me, so everyone got into an Uber and headed back to the hotel without me. And I make my way over to Rue Cambon. It's about a 15-minute walk. On my way, I pass Goyard. If you watched my Parisian unboxing video, you know how that experience ended. I kept walking until I got to Rue Cambon. And by the way, that was a very lovely walk. My clothes were still wet from earlier in the day, but at this point, the sun had come out and it was a beautiful day. So I get to Chanel, and right before I got to Chanel, I looked up and saw the Hermes Pegasus flying high in the sky. I'm not sure why I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but the Rue Cambon boutique is perpendicular to Rue Saint-Honoré. So the Hermes boutique was a hop, skip, and a jump away from Chanel. And there and then I decided if I didn't take too long in Chanel, I was going to go to Hermes to try to get the free sneakers that I ultimately got at the airport. So at this point, it's about 3 p.m. and I promised everyone I would be back by 5 so that I could get ready and head over to the restaurant for our 6:30 reservation. Thankfully at Chanel, there was no line. I walked right in. I was assigned a sales associate right away. She was absolutely lovely. I was looking for the black sneakers that I told you guys about in previous videos. They didn't have them, so the entire experience was very short-lived. They were really lovely in Chanel though. I was wearing my black caviar mini, and the sales associate was really in love with this bag, and she was telling me that Chanel doesn't make fake minis in this material anymore. And she asked me how long I had the bag. She offered me champagne, which I didn't accept because if they didn't have the sneakers, I just wanted to make my way over to Hermes quickly to see if they had the sneakers that I wanted. So I get to Hermes and the shenanigans began almost immediately. I walk into the store. The guard is at the door. I see the host desk. So I stood behind this woman and her family waiting to ask where the shoe department was. However, I did not want any part of the conversation that was happening between the woman who was in front of me with her family and the host. There were two of them. She had two very cute children and a forlorn looking partner with her. So I overheard her saying, "My children were hungry. I took them for something to eat. You said to check back later in the day for a cancellation. Now I'm back. I've been here all day. How can there be no cancellations?" And she was going on and on. It was at that point that I decided that I'd seen enough FSH vlogs that I could figure out where the shoe department was myself, and I just went upstairs and found the shoe department. I asked them for the free sneakers. They told me there was one in France, but it wasn't in my size. It was either in a 35 or 35.5, so that was a no-go. I then walked over to Ready to Wear, looking for the cardigan, which again I showed you in my Paris haul. I was having the hardest time finding someone to help me with Ready to Wear. I approached this woman who was walking through the department and told her what I was looking for, and she said to wait a minute, madame, I will find someone to help you. She leaves briefly and comes back with someone who I asked for the cardigan. She checks. They don't have the taupe color. She did tell me what colors they had. Unfortunately, that's not what I want. The woman who found that sales associate to help me is now walking back through the Ready to Wear department, and she sees me and she asks, "Oh, did you find what you were looking for?" And I said, "No, unfortunately, you guys don't have the shoes that I want or the cardigan. I'm looking for a Calvi. Maybe you have that." And she tells me, "Small leather goods are downstairs. I'm walking down there. I'll show you where it is." So as we're walking, we're talking. She asks me where I'm from, and I say the US. Where in the US? I told her New York. I asked her where she was from, and then she was telling me that she really loves New York. That's one of her favorite cities. And I said, well, we have that in common. New York is my favorite city. And she laughed and said that everyone who comes to the store always tells her that Paris is their favorite city. So I guess it was just funny to her that I was being so honest. So I make a bit of a sarcastic, somewhat facetious joke that I think that luxury shopping is actually better in New York than in France. I haven't been able to get anything that I've been looking for today. Goya, Chanel, now Hermes. And she says, it's very hard this time of year with stock. And I say, that's okay. I'm not really in Paris to shop anyway. And then she says, maybe you'll get lucky with a leather appointment and that will make up for everything. And I said, yeah, I've been here for a couple of days, but I haven't applied for a leather appointment. I don't think it really matters. I probably won't get one anyway. And she says, no, you never know. You should apply. Apply tonight for tomorrow. And I said, I can't apply tonight. I'm going to be at Disney all day tomorrow. Even if I got the appointment, I wouldn't be able to come. And she says, when you're done with Disney tomorrow, why don't you apply for the following day? And I said, the following day, I'm going to London. There's no point in applying. And she says, well, are you coming back to France? And I said, yeah, I'll be back. Maybe I'll apply next week. And so we both had a bit of a laugh because clearly I'm not trying to apply for this appointment. So we get downstairs and she's trying to direct me to where the small leather goods are. And that same woman with her family who was there when I came in was still there, except now she's crying. And she's going on and on about being there all day with her kids. And she really wants this appointment. And the hosts are telling her, Madame, I'm sorry, we can't help you. We have no cancellations for today. And this woman is besides herself. And I feel so awkward. My secondhand embarrassment is on 10. And at this point, I don't even want to look at the small leather goods. I just want to leave. But that sales associate is still next to me. We're looking at each other and she can clearly see that I'm cringing hard. And I said to her, you know what? Never mind. I have to go. It was so lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much for your help. And she says, Madame, wait a minute. She goes over to one of the hosts, pulls the host away from that cringeworthy conversation. They're whispering back and forth. She comes over to me and one of the hosts joins us. The host then motions me over to the area behind the podium where the hosts stand, and the host says to me, I understand that you're interested in a leather appointment. And I look at her and I look at the other woman who's smiling at me, and I said, absolutely, I am interested in a leather appointment. And she said, do you have time to wait today? If you do, I can fit you in. Now, so many things are going through my mind in this split second. The first thing that goes through my mind is that woman is still begging and crying to get an appointment and being told no. And the second thing that goes through my mind is I don't really have time today. I have dinner reservations. It's now about 3:45. I need to get back to my hotel by 5:30 at the latest. So I start to justify in my mind, even if I have to wait for an hour, the Uber ride is only about 15 minutes and I can still be back in my hotel by 5:30. But I'm not gonna look a gift Pegasus in the mouth. So of course I say, absolutely. And she takes my phone number and tells me that someone will get me for my appointment. So I'm directed upstairs. I pass by the woman who is still crying and begging. And this is a cautionary tale. If you act like that woman and make a scene, even if they have cancellations to give, they can't give it to you at that point, because that will set a precedent that all you have to do is go and cry and you'll automatically be given an appointment. They certainly do not want that message to be out there. Unfortunately, if you behave like that, it's almost guaranteed that you're not going to get an appointment. So I make my way upstairs and they show me where to sit. And I sat down and I'm looking at my outfit. And guys, I am not dressed for a leather appointment at FSH. I'm wearing sweatpants and a denim shirt, sneakers, but not like cool sneakers that are made for walking, which is what I've been doing all day. The only saving grace is that I'm wearing my Chanel mini and I just happen to have on an Hermes ring that day. But in my head, I'm thinking, had I had any inkling that I would have this leather appointment today, I would have worn one of the many pieces of Hermes ready to wear that I brought to France with me. Not to mention that my hair and my clothes are still damp from earlier in the day. I'm sitting there like a wet puppy waiting for my appointment. That being said, everyone was super nice. One of the guards came over and chatted with me. Someone else came, they brought me drinks. They asked me if I wanted champagne. I did not, because at this point I'm starting to get hungry and I did not want to drink alcohol on an empty stomach. So I just have some water and I wait. And then I had this epiphany and realized I do not have a profile in France. I got out of my seat and went in search of something to buy. So I went back downstairs to Small Leather Goods looking for that Calvi. They had one in a random color that I didn't want. I went to fine jewelry to look at rings. They had nothing in my size that I liked. The things that they did have in my size were full pavé, ridiculously expensive pieces, so that wasn't happening. I went back to the shoe section and asked for sheepers. Zip, zero, nada, nothing. I went to look at ready to wear again. The only department that I didn't check was homeware, but I decided to just go back to my seat, drink my water, and wait for my appointment. And I waited and waited and waited. The only good thing about waiting so long for my leather appointment is that I got to see other people's leather appointments, and that was super interesting. So let's talk about that. So I witnessed 2 appointments in French, which I told you about in my Hermes conspiracy theories videos, were clearly local clients. They greeted their sales associates with double kisses. They were both offered non-quota bags, which they rejected, and ultimately ended up doing special orders. I think I still have a pic of one of the special order mock-ups on the iPad, which if I still have, I'll insert. At that point, I wasn't feeling good about getting a bag because these were local clients that clearly had relationships and they weren't offered bags. But I thought maybe they were asking for things that were very hard to get. So I maintained hope. I did see 2 clients and their families being led up the staircase to what I'm assuming are more private rooms. So I said to myself, they clearly have bags for some people, because whenever non-quota bags were offered, offered, that was pretty much done right in front of me in the leather goods area. Now, there was one woman with, again, her family. It was her husband, her kids. They came for their appointment. They were offered something. I could not see what the offer was, but clearly it was not to her liking, and she started yelling at the sales associate. And she acted like the most stereotypically cliched version of an entitled luxury customer. I can't believe this is how you treat your most valuable clients. Do you have any idea how much money I spend at? She was screaming at this sales associate. And to his credit, he kept his composure and said, "I'm sorry, we did not have an offer that pleases you today, madame. Perhaps try again." She grabbed her kids and stormed off, and her husband just trailed behind. Again, my secondhand embarrassment was on 15 out of 10. It was really horrendous to watch. So by the time my sales associate finally came over to me, I had witnessed the leather appointments for at least 6 or 7 other people because I had been waiting for just about 2 hours. Now, I'll admit I was secretly hoping that the woman who had gotten me this appointment, who to this day I have no idea who that woman was, if she was a senior sales associate, a manager, I have no idea. But I was hoping that she was a leather sales associate and she would be the person that helped me. But instead, a man walks over to me, and at this point, it's almost 6 o'clock. The store closes at 6:30. The leather goods area is pretty empty, and he does not look pleased to see me. He's walking pretty quickly towards me. He's not smiling, and my heart sank. I don't get a bonjour. He goes directly into English. "How can I help you? What are you looking for today?" Now, I try to bonjour the man, ask him how his day is, but I am clearly the last appointment of his day, and it just seems to me that had they not added me onto his schedule for the day, he would probably be done. So I think I just represent extra work. And in a stroke of unfortunate timing, everyone chose then and there to text me that they were able to successfully change the dinner reservation to 7:30, because after waiting for about an hour, I texted them to change the reservation because there was no way I'd be able to make it there by 6:30. But they were having some difficulty doing that. They were also asking for updates. Have I been seen yet? Did I get anything? They were pretty excited for me. But I had to turn my phone over because both my eyes and the sales associates kept looking at my phone because it kept lighting up over and over again. So I tried to make light of it because the timing was terrible. The minute he walked over to me, my phone started blowing up. So I said that my family was waiting for me to go to dinner. They're really hungry. Haha. That went completely unacknowledged. Not even a nod or a hint of a smile. So fine, he's not here for the pleasantries. I get right into it. I decide I'm just going to ask for my dream bag, which is a green Kelly 25 in either malachite, vert jade, or vercypress. All I was able to get out is I would like a Kelly. I don't think the entire word Kelly got out of my mouth before he says, "We do not have any Kellys, any Birkins, any Constances in any size, in any color." And so I said, "Oh, okay. Well, that's really disappointing. I guess this isn't the best time of day or time of year maybe to get a bag." And he looks me dead in the face and said, "Madame, you are lucky that you even got an appointment. I'm not sure how you got this appointment, but I know it was not through the online system." Now, I am a pretty straight talker and I appreciate straightforwardness in sales associates, but I'll admit that even I was taken aback by his directness and possible disdain. So I look at him, and again, he looks painfully annoyed with me. And so he says, "Are there any other types of bags that you're interested in?" Now, luckily, while I was sitting there, because I'd witnessed all those other appointments and without quota bag offers, I had given some thought to what non-quota bags I would be willing to accept. And you're not going to be surprised if you've watched any of my videos. There are 2 non-quota bags that I want. So first I asked for the mini linen Lindy. I didn't even have a chance to tell him about the color that I want because, again, he cut me off and said, we don't have any mini Lindys. And I was about to ask for a mini gypsy when he said, why don't you take a look around and see the kinds of bags that we offer and tell me if anything interests you. And so even though in my head I'm thinking, I don't need to look around. I know the types of bags that Hermes has. Plus, I've been here for the last 2 hours looking at these shelves, but I have the most miserable rapport with this man. So I decide to humor him and look around anyway. And he shows me Picotin. I tell him that I'm not interested in that bag. He points out some other bags that I'm also not interested in. I was about to ask for the mini gypsy when I hear people speaking in a language commonly spoken in Nigeria. I'm not Nigerian, but I can recognize that language when I hear it. And so my head whips around to see who's talking. So this is future editing me here. And I realized that I needed to provide some context because it wouldn't really make much sense to you why I would get so excited hearing people speak Igbo and Hermes in France. So long story short, there are just certain cultures, nationalities that I'm particularly fond of because of friends that I have, my educational background, really great experiences that I've had growing up, so that when I hear certain languages somewhere I'm not expecting to hear them, I get really excited. So Igbo is one of those languages. Korean is another language like this for me. It's almost like my brain processes hearing them when I'm not expecting to as a potential friend to be made. Okay, now back to the story time. And he turns around as well, and there's this couple, and the woman is stunning. She is so impeccably dressed. She's wearing a full-blown men's Hermes crocodile jacket in France in the middle of August and looking spectacular. The man is also impeccably dressed, and I look over to my essay, and he gets the biggest smile on his face, drops me like a hot potato. He rushes over to this couple who he clearly knows. They switch to French. They're hugging and having this whole conversation. So clearly they are big Hermes customers, and he's talking to the man. The woman comes closer to me, and the one thing you should know about me is I'm a girl's girl, and I'm not afraid to give a woman a compliment. I took an educated guess that they spoke English, which they did, and I told her that her coat looks amazing and her bag is amazing, and she said, yes, everyone's been complimenting me all day. So we chat for a little bit. She wanders off. I go back to look for my essay. He's still talking to the guy. This essay was like a completely different man. He was positively giddy having this conversation. At this point, I'm hoping that this good mood just stays with him when he eventually transitions back to me. So they leave, and he says, have you thought about it anymore, madame? And I said, yes, how about a mini gypsy in etoupe or gold? And so he smiles. The first time I've seen this man smile. At me, that is. And he says, I think I might be able to help you with that. Let me go check. So I'm starting to get excited because I told you guys in a video last year, the only reason that I didn't get a mini gypsy was because of price, but there is a huge price difference between US and European pricing. So he comes back with a box and he says, I was able to get you a mini gypsy, however, not in the color that you want, but I'm hoping that you like it. So I'm a little disappointed, but I think to myself, well, the mini gypsy doesn't come in that many colors and they're mostly pretty neutral, so I'll probably like it. So we go to the desk, he puts the box down, starts to open it, pulls it out of the dust bag, and I get a really big smile on my face. So he gets a really big smile on his face. And then I start to laugh, and so he stops smiling because what he pulls out of that bag is a mini gypsy in the brightest shade of orange that I have ever seen. I don't know what this orange is. I like orange, just not this particular shade of orange. And I especially did not like this orange on this particular bag. And it's in Swift leather that makes the orange even brighter. And at this point, I'm thinking, does he think I'm a reseller? Because did he go back there and look for the one bag that I'm guaranteed to not make a profit on if I tried to sell? Because it was the polar opposite of what I requested. This bag was not it. And he asked me, would you like to try it on? And I said, no, thank you. And he says, oh, I'm so sorry, we could not find anything for you. I said, that's fine. But at this point, point, I'm still kind of laughing because even though I was disappointed by the offer, I could still see the humor in the moment. So I thanked him for his time. I was now exhausted. It was after 6 o'clock. The store closes at 6:30. I need to get back to my hotel to get to our now 7:30 dinner reservations. I go downstairs, and on my way out, there's just one more ridiculous scene. There's a woman who clearly got something earlier in the day. She's there with her big orange bag, and she has this giant box of chocolate from this very famous chocolatier brand. The sales associate is telling her, "I can't accept this, but thank you very much. Just take it and share it with your family." The woman is insisting that the sales associate have the box of chocolates, and they're almost pushing it back and forth like a reverse tug of war. Finally, the sales associate looks over to, I'm assuming is a manager or someone in charge, who gives the briefest nod, and the sales associate takes the box of chocolate and rather loudly says, "Thank you, madame. I will share it with everyone. Enjoy. Have a good day." And again, I am just so embarrassed by the behavior of so many of the clients that I saw at FSH on that day. In this woman's defense, I do think the gesture was well intended, but she was just not reading the room and noticing how uncomfortable this was making the sales associate. So what started off as a sweet gesture ended up coming across almost aggressive, which of course was not her intention. And my thought as I was leaving is that if I witnessed this in just the brief period of time that I'm here, I can only imagine what these sales associates go through 8 to 10 hours a day, every single day. And so while I didn't get my dream bag, it's totally fine. As you know, I came back and I still got a bag in the US, but it was truly an eye-opening experience. So here are some takeaways and what I'd do the same or differently if I had the opportunity. Firstly, when the host asked if I was able to wait that day for a leather appointment, I wish that I had at least tried to request an appointment for another day when I had more time, I was a bit more prepared, and certainly better dressed. The worst that could have happened is that I was told no, in which case then I would have stayed, and c'est la vie. I don't regret not buying something because they really didn't have anything that I wanted, and it didn't seem like the sales associate even checked to see if I had a profile. In fact, he didn't go on his iPad for anything, to look up my profile, to check stock. He did not care. So I think it's highly doubtful that me buying a Calvi would have made any difference whatsoever. Also, I wish that I had at least tried to apply for a leather appointment, which I said I was going to do, but believe it or not, in my entire time in France, I didn't once apply for the online leather appointment. But I think it would have been nice just to try my luck, because it is possible that there is a difference in treatment between people that legitimately win the online lottery versus someone who's just randomly given an appointment, especially if that person has zero purchase history. And lastly, I'm really glad that I didn't really miss out on anything in order to have this appointment, because the only thing I had planned for the rest of that day was dinner, and we were still able to do that just an hour later. And I'd say in general, that's the attitude that you need to have in France. Low expectations, but willing to be pleasantly surprised. And I realize that I'm saying this all from a very privileged position of owning a number of quota bags already. When I returned home, I was offered a couple more quota bags, one of which I bought. I also got my special order at the end of last year, so I do think I would be a lot more disappointed if I didn't have a home boutique and this was my one and only chance to get my dream bag. That being said, even before I got my first quota bag years ago, these have always been just bags to me. They're not worth crying over or belittling a sales associate to demand one. So although I've seen some pretty terrible behavior at my home boutique, it's also a very large boutique with a lot of tourists. I will say that FSH really took the cake in terms of bad customer behavior. I was taken aback by the amount of desperate, rude, demanding, entitled behavior that I saw in France. And I do think that repeated behavior like that can impact the overall customer service experience at these stores. I saw lots of other questionable behavior while I was there, but this video is already long. So in the interest of time, I just told you about the most egregious things that I saw that day. So that was my Hermes FSH story time. Let me know what you think. Why do you think that essay decided to help me get get a leather appointment, especially considering I didn't even ask for one. Also, why do you think I didn't get offered a quota bag? Do you buy that there was none available? Or was there anything that I could have done differently to have improved my outcome and get the quota bag that I wanted? What's your take on all of the shenanigans that I saw during my time at the store? And please feel free to share any of your Hermes experiences in France and let us know what you were offered. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel. That would make my day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.